speaker is the president of the Illinois Search and Staffing Association. He is also a radio host on WJJG called Job Talk. He's also the president and founder of Drive Staff, which is a technology recruiting firm in Elmhurst, Illinois. Would you please help me welcome Paul Campbell? Paul?
Okay, well, thank you. I'm going to stand back here because I've got to work this thing, and I'm sorry to say I don't have any candy to bribe you with, or...
Ah, darn.
I should have come more prepared. Thanks, Rick. As you mentioned, I'm a headhunter. Essentially, I'm a recruiter for the technology industry. So I place people like IT programmers and database administrators, those types of folks, but more commonly known as a headhunter is probably what you know us as. And if you have no idea what a headhunter is, essentially my job is to go out and find open positions, just like a job seeker would. Then I go find the job seekers who can fill those positions, and then I essentially just introduce them. Simple enough. Well, almost that simple. The thing is, I've got to go find companies that are of a certain quality that people would actually want to work for, and then I've got to go find those specific people who would fit those specific jobs that are so difficult to fill that they're willing to pay me a fee to go and find that person, and then really help that person to become as attractive as possible to that employer by working on their resume, by helping them with their interview strategies, that kind of a thing. And then I send them to the interview, and I have to hope that they get the job. And the reason I have to hope that they get the job is because I work on 100% commission. So if my candidate doesn't get the job, I don't get paid, and I'm not going to be a headhunter for very long. So I figured out early on in my career, if I could really master this job search process in total, well, my candidates are going to get more offers than their competition, and subsequently I'm going to make more placements than my competition, and I'll be a headhunter for a very long time, which seems to be working out, because as of next week, beginning of March, I'm going to celebrate my 12-year anniversary as a headhunter. Right now, the average interview to hire ratio across the country for the recruiting industry is 7-to-1. So for every 7 interviews the average recruiter sets up, they make 1 placement. Mine is 3-to-1. And frankly, it's never going to get any better than that. It's never going to go to 2-to-1 or to 1-to-1, because for every open position I get, I send them 3 people. Right? They can't all 3 get the job. And the reason I'm telling you this all right at the very beginning is because we're going to go through some techniques and some ideas, and some of them you're going to think to yourself, I don't know if I could say that in an interview, or that would never work. Is he crazy? Let's get back to my interview to hire ratio as 3-to-1. These tools work if you use them. But similar to any tool you would go and buy at Home Depot or anywhere else, you go buy a new saw. Just because you bought the saw doesn't make the board fall into 2 pieces. You have to use the saw in order for it to work. Okay, so if you use these tools, they will help you. We're going to kind of take a 20,000-foot view of the job search here today. And I'm going to try to hit all 5 of these key areas: attitude, daily plan, resumes, target lists, interviews. Now, typically, over the last 7 to 8 years, I've been doing presentations like this about every month for all that time. 99% of the time, I talk purely about interviewing. I have an entire presentation completely about the interviewing process and how to effectively sell yourself in an interview. That's a whole presentation in and of itself. And then recently I got the opportunity to do a whole presentation at the WOW group, if you're familiar with Women on Work, by Joy McGuire-Dooley. I know that I see some familiar faces. That presentation, I got to do an entire presentation just on how to get interviews. Right? How to tailor that resume, how to target companies, where to send your resume, who to call, what to say when you call. That's an entire presentation in and of itself. And then, middle of last year, I got to do an entire presentation at St. Hubert's on attitude. That's a whole presentation in and of itself. Each one of these is a whole topic that we can get into for at least an hour. We're going to try to cover all of them here today. And by the time we're done with each one of them today, you're going to think, well, wait, we're not done with that one yet. And that's kind of the point that I really want to make as the underlying point of this whole conversation here today, is there is so much to know about the job of getting a job that we really need to spend time learning that whole process. Right? Now, I'll give you a hypothetical situation that will help you understand what I mean. Let's say hypothetically you were an Oracle DBA. Okay, and if you have no idea what an Oracle DBA is, that's okay. You could be a widget maker. It doesn't make a difference exactly what you are, but it's my game, so you're an Oracle DBA. And that's all you've ever wanted to do, right? You wanted to be an Oracle DBA your whole life. You went to school to be an Oracle DBA. You've been an Oracle DBA for your company for the last 10 years. You're the best one that they have, right? But on Friday, your boss walked into your office and he said, as of Monday, you need to report to our .NET development department, and you are going to be a .NET developer as of Monday. And until you master the skill of being a .NET developer, you cannot come back here to do this job of an Oracle DBA that you love so much. Okay? Now, just for sake of argument, you can't tell him no. You can't quit. You can't tell him what lake to go jump into. You have to do this, right? So this weekend, what do? Do you go get another book on how the new version of Oracle is going to change the face of databases? Do you go get a new certification on Oracle? Or do you go learn as much as you can about .NET? Right? Obviously, you go learn as much as you can about .NET. Well, if you're in job transition right now, essentially what's happened, whether you're between positions or whether you've decided in your own mind, I need to make a job change, your boss has walked into your office, and said, as of Monday, you need to report to our job hunting department. And until you master the job of getting a job, you cannot come back here to do this job that you love so much. Now, I'm not trying to discount the idea of going and getting further education. That's obviously very important, and getting those certifications will help you in your job. But you can be the most accredited pilot who's ever taken a test on flying, but if nobody ever shows you how to get onto the plane, it's not going to do you any good. Okay, so we're going to talk about getting on the plane here today. All right, so we're going to jump in. We do have a lot of ground to cover, so I'm going to jump right in. Attitude. I know we're all adults here. You don't need someone up here telling you that you've got to have a good attitude, right? But here's the thing. This is the most attractive attribute you have as a job seeker, right? This is what draws people to you. If you find yourself constantly talking about, oh my goodness, the employment situation is so bad. It's 10% unemployment. I hear it's the worst since the Great Depression. Oh my goodness, which by the way, the Great Depression, the unemployment rate was 24%. But that's a whole other story. Yeah, it's just awful out there. And then all of a sudden you feel like you understand what every employer is looking for. And in your conversations, you say things like, oh, employers don't want to see stuff like that. Employers wouldn't pay full fees or full salaries for those types of people. And again, as a by the way, they're not only paying those full salaries right now, they're paying guys like me a fee to go find somebody so they can pay those full fees. Those jobs are out there, they're still paying those salaries, that kind of thing. But if you're out there spreading this bad news and complaining, that's going to repel people from you. It's not going to attract them to you. The people who are positive and trying to help others and offering leads, that's what's going to bring people to you. And that's so important that you do that. You need to make deposits with people before you can make withdrawals from them. If you think of every person you talk to as a bank account, you've got to make a deposit before you can make a withdrawal, just like the bank, right? And if you can go to these job club meetings and networking events and try to help people as much as you possibly can, come with leads. If I'm a computer programmer and I saw there's an accounting job over at IBM and I see an accountant at that place, it's not going to do me any harm to give that guy that lead. But then when that guy can see how he can help me, he's going to be more likely to help me because I made that deposit with him. Okay? And the other thing about making sure you stay positive versus negative and complaining all the time is those complaints will start to seep out in your interviews. All of a sudden you'll find yourself saying the little things which don't sound like complaints really, but when you're in front of the employer and you say something along the lines of, you know what, I know you've got at least 15 other people that you're looking at for this particular position, and I realize you've got these 18 skills you need somebody to have. I just want to be upfront with you. I've only got 6 of those 18. I don't want to give you the wrong impression, so you expect me to have that the first day. It sounds positive. It doesn't sound overly negative, but to the employer, it's just very defeatist in nature. And you've got to go into every one of these opportunities with just extreme optimism, with what I like to call the optimism of a dog. Okay? How many people have a dog? Okay? A lot of people, for those of you who don't have a dog, I'm willing to bet you have been to somebody's house who has a dog at some point in your life, right? Okay, so you can follow along with me. So picture this scene. You're sitting at home, right? Nice quiet evening, dog's laying at your feet, everything's calm, we're reading a magazine, and all of a sudden somebody comes over to the house and rings the doorbell, right? What's the average dog do? Right? He gets really excited and jumping up and down. This is actually my dog, Jackson. He is a boxer. Boxers are really way too much energy dogs, and he just gets all excited and he's barking and runs to the door and wagging his tail and he's all excited. Now, how many times when you go to answer the door is it ever for the dog? Yeah, tennis ball outside his chest. Never, it's never for the dog, but every single time that doorbell rings, he goes racing to the door because he knows in his heart someone came over to play with him, right? Obviously they didn't, but he goes with that optimism every time, and you need to approach your job search in the same way. Run into every single job just knowing that you're the right candidate for that job, and all you need to do now is tell them why. All right, when you go in with that type of an attitude, you're going to find so many more doors open to you. Okay, and I mentioned a minute ago, I did a presentation purely on how to stay positive through a job search because it is very difficult. It's a stressful situation. The media is bombarding you with all these horrible statistics on a daily basis. That presentation that I did is available right now on our website at drivestaff.com/staypositive. So let's jump into the daily job search plan. All right, you need to go into every day with a plan, like Rick was saying. If you don't have a goal to shoot at, you're never going to hit it, right? So the first thing you need to do to put together a job search plan, identify what it is you need to do on a daily basis. What needs to get done? All of the tasks, write them out. What needs to get done every single day? And the nice thing about having a plan on what needs to get done every day is when those distractions happen, especially if you're conducting your job search from home, a million distractions can come up. If you have an outline of here's what I need to get back to, the distraction happens, I come back, now where was I? Okay, here I am, and you're right back on track. It helps you stay focused through your job search. All right, next thing is make sure you set your work hours. And while some people would say you're unemployed, that's actually a curse word on Job Talk on WJJG. We're not allowed to use that word. Really, you are employed. You've got one of the most important jobs that you've ever had. And whether you like it or not, you're a commissioned salesperson right now. And you only need to make one sale. And when you make that one sale by leaving the job, all of a sudden your commission is a job, it's a salary, it's benefits, it's all these different things that you get with the benefits of having a job. So you need to focus your day as if you are a commissioned salesperson, right? Set your hours. If you are working for somebody, would you get up at the crack of 10 and stroll into work? Probably not, right? Get up at a certain time, set your day, set your schedule, and get time to put together a job search plan and work your job search plan, all right? Most importantly, you need a system, something that's going to keep you encouraged and motivated to do this every single day. Now, as a manager of salespeople, I'm going to give you two different systems here that have worked, both have worked very, very successfully for me. I recommend you start with the first one and then move to the second one, all right? And I'll explain why as we go along. Now, I am a very sports-minded person, all right? I'm a fanatical Chicago Bear fan. I love sports. And one of the greatest things about sports is you can definitively tell how well somebody did at the end of the season because they have a record. Right? Lovie Smith, we know, did not have a good year last year because he went 7-9. He had an okay year the year before, going 9-7. It was 4 years ago he had a great year. We know he had a great year because he went 13-3. 13 wins, 3 losses. All right? So here's what you need to do. Take every one of those things that you've written out that you need to do every single day, put a little W and a little L next to it. Okay? So let's say, and this is just a sample, whatever your tasks are. Spend an hour searching the internet for jobs. Did you do that today? Well, if you did, that's a win. Congratulations. Did you send out 20 resumes today? If you did, congratulations, that's a win. Did you call every single one of those companies to make sure they got your resume, you talked to the correct hiring manager? Did you at least make an attempt to make those phone calls? No, you didn't? I'm sorry, that's a loss. Did you plan your day for tomorrow? You did? Great. That's a win. Okay, so now at the end of the day, it's not, hey, how was your day today? Well, it was pretty good. I did some good things, made some connects. No, I had a great day. I went 10-0. Or you know what? It was a pretty tough day. I only went 4-6 today. But the great thing about going 4-6 is you know exactly which 6 games you lost. So you know where you can improve the next day. All right? And you know how to improve that. Now, this is a great system, and I used this for years with my recruiters. But we found a flaw. It's a great one to start with, but the flaw is, by the end of the day, the recruiters would come in and they would say, hey, I had a pretty good day. I went 8-2. I went 9-1. I went 7-3. Winning season. Great. The problem is, you've got to do all 10 things every day. We can't just not do some things. That's the job. The job is to do these 10 things every single day. We can't just miss some of them and then be happy about that. Right? So once you get in a groove where you're hitting 10-0 days every single day, or however many games there are for you, we have 18 games per day, but you're hitting all 10 of those things every single day, then we move to the next system. The next system, we made the analogy of the school bus. I likened their jobs to that of a bus driver, a school bus driver. You do not have an option to just not pick up some of the kids. Leave them on the curb all night long. You've got to pick them all up, right? So that's the job. Did you pick up all the kids today? So, hey, did I search the internet for an hour for jobs? Yes, there's a kid. Did I send out 20 resumes? Great, there's another kid. Did I make those 20 calls? There's a kid. Did I plan my day for tomorrow? There's a kid. You've got to pick up every single kid every single day. And if you go by that analogy, eventually there's a little more pressure with that, I admit, because you can't just leave somebody sitting out there in the rain all night or you're going to have an upset parent. But it helps you to do it every single day. And here's the greatest thing about this whole thing. Right? Let's say you did everything. You went 10-0 or you picked up all the kids, right? But you got absolutely no results today. You sent out all those resumes, nobody called you back. You made all those phone calls, you left 20 voicemails. Nothing happened for you today. And then later that night, you're sitting with your family, you want to watch a little bit of TV with them, and then that little voice starts, that always starts in the back of your head that says, what are you doing watching TV? You should be on the internet looking for more jobs. Well, you're wasting time. You should be sending out resumes. You can't afford to watch TV, and you just feel this stress because you didn't do enough, right? If you have a plan that you know is effective, and if you do it right every single day, something good is going to come of it, you can turn around and say to that voice, hey, enough. I did what I was supposed to do today, and I'm going to do it again tomorrow. I'm going to relax now because I've earned it. That releases so much stress. I can't even begin to describe it, especially as a 100% commission salesperson. That is just one of the biggest ulcer makers for salespeople who are not producing. You've got to be able to find a way to quiet that little voice so you can relax and get that sense of peace that's so important. Okay? So, and we could get into a whole day's worth of, here, put all these 25 things on your plan every day, but we do need to keep moving. So we're going to keep rolling into resumes, cover letters, emails. First thing I can tell you, make sure you tailor every single resume and cover letter and email to the person you're sending it to. Now, some people are thinking right now, I promise, I can hear you in your head of, I'm sending out how many resumes? There's no way I'm going to do that for all these resumes. That's crazy. Let me present something to you. If you could list out the 5 most important things in your life, your career would almost always make that list. You're going to spend a third of your waking life at work, right? It's worth the time. This is the biggest sale you're ever going to make. Every decision you make for the rest of your life is going to depend on which company you go to work for, right? It's important to make the time to tailor every single one of these resumes. And I'll tell you the big difference. It's going to give you such an advantage over the vast majority of the people that are out there. I was looking for an administrative assistant about 6 months ago. I posted an ad, and I got 394 resumes in the first week. Oh my goodness, that's so discouraging. How could you give us that information? 32 of them were addressed to me. The rest were, well, I would say at least half, the people just sent an email with no text anywhere in the email. Not, hey, here's my resume, nothing. Just a Word document attached to a blank email. Here you go. Well, that could be a virus. I deleted all of those. Okay, another good percentage of them said resume attached. That's it. Nothing else. And then you start getting to a bunch of them that say, to whom it may concern, that they send to administrative assistant position for Paul Cameron at Drive Staff, to whom it may concern. Okay, obviously you didn't spend a lot of time there, right? Those 32 people, they got first looks. Now, 12 of those 32 I deleted immediately because they had misspellings on their resume or their cover letter. Most of them misspelled the word administrative. Right? But you pay attention to those things, now all of a sudden you're in the top 20 out of 394, right? Now in the ad it says please call to follow up. It's a customer service type of thing. I want to hear how you sound on the phone. We had 7 people call. 394, I made my decision out of those 7.
Wow.
All right? Huge, huge difference. All right? Couple other quick things about resumes. Avoid saving the resume as, you know, when you save the Word document, you have a choice of what you title it. Don't save resume-management. If you've got 3 or 4 resumes, that's great, but come up with a code that makes sense to you. All right? Something that the employer won't look at and say resume management. Okay, well, obviously there's a resume/administration and a resume/.NET development and another resume that's, you know, so basically you made up this resume for this job, and if it doesn't fit what I need, I guess you'll just make up another one, right? Come up with a code. So if I'm looking for a job, if I'm looking for a tech recruiting spot, I'll have one and I'll save it as P. Cameron. And if I'm looking for a sales management job, I'll have one saved as Paul C. If I have another one for public speaker, I'll save it as Paul Cameron. That makes sense to me, but they can't figure out what's going on. They can't see that I have a fleet of resumes. That make sense? Want to be conscious of your email address. I cannot tell you how many of these emails I get. tequilagirl@hotmail.com, drinktobcool@gmail.com. These are real email addresses. The people send the most obnoxious, I mean, vulgar words that you would be shocked that what people would say out loud. Yes, right.
I heard it's pretty common to actually peruse Facebook too and eliminate people out of Facebook.
And that is very common. I don't know how legal that is. In fact, I know how illegal that is.
Well, that's being done, I guess.
It's absolutely being done. There's not a great way for the EOC to be able to catch that. They're checking LinkedIn. On that note, don't include your picture on your resume because larger companies that do get audited on a regular basis have to throw those resumes out because then they're making judgments. They're making their hiring decisions based on judgments that have nothing to do with it. They can see what race you are, they can see what gender you are, they can see a lot about you, and they have to delete those. Keep your pictures off of it. But this kind of stuff, you're going to the bottom of my list immediately. But if you were an Oracle DBA and you sent me an email from Oracle DBA girl at gmail.com, I would know, oh wow, she's serious about being an Oracle DBA. Gmail, Hotmail is free. Make as many email addresses as you like for each one, and that's going to make them feel this is what this person does. Now I'm going to get the opposite impression. They're not looking for a million different things. They're looking for this one thing. Does that make sense? Be aware of the extra space at the end of your resume. As you're editing your resume, well, next time you open your resume, just scroll down to the bottom. Do you notice there's a whole extra page that's just blank? Well, when they go to print that resume, they're going to print the blank page. That is one of the biggest irritations for recruiters and HR people because then they got to go load the paper back up and, you know, it's not going to knock you out of the job, but they're going to take note of who that person is that didn't pay attention to that detail. So why not just do it right? Right? Now, you always want to proofread your resume before sending. Did anybody catch that the word proofread is misspelled?
Yeah.
Okay. I see you nodding your head, Tom. You saw that was misspelled. Did Rick or Brian or Al, did anybody pay you when you came in to catch spelling mistakes on my presentation?
No, were they offered?
No, I don't know. But you didn't know that they were going to be paying you, even if they did. Here's the thing. Nobody paid Tom to catch that spelling mistake or anyone else in here. The people you're sending your resumes to are being paid to catch spelling mistakes. They're going to catch it. If you can catch it without being paid, if somebody's paying you specifically to catch them, they're going to catch them. And so many people will not proofread. And I don't know how you have misspellings, to be frank with you, and I don't mean to have this come across the wrong way, but how do you have a misspelling? there's buttons. You just push the button. It says, hey, this is misspelled. There's spell checks. And they almost always, they underline it for you. They do everything they can besides putting arrows. Hey, this is misspelled. But, and you're misspelling the town you're from and the company you work for. That stuff, you know what? Yeah, you're not an English major, perhaps. You're a computer programmer. But you're not a computer programmer for us because you're not paying attention to the details. I eliminate easily. It used to be at least 50% of the resumes that I got for that. This day and age right now with the economy and everything the way it is, it's about 30%, but it's still 30% of the resumes I get I delete because of misspellings. I mean, just proofread. Yes?
Question. You're talking about spelling, but when I grew up many years ago, proper grammar, sentence structure was very important.
Yes.
Is that as important today in your resume?
Yes. Yes, it is. Absolutely. It will set you apart from the people who don't think it's as important. Because a lot of people have that same sort of attitude towards it where, you know what, it's not as important in today's economy or in today's market. But it is. It sets you apart.
So with these hundreds of resumes that come in electronically,
Yep.
these are the first grid work eliminators
Absolutely.
that you're talking about.
Yeah, we do. We eliminate anybody who's got misspellings. I used to tell people, hey, I'm going to be deleting your resume. I'm sorry, we're not going to consider you because of all the misspellings on your resume. But I got so many people that would get so irate with me about it and scream at me about it. Take the time to proofread it. It makes such a difference. You're going to put yourself easily in the top 70% of those resumes. So let's, and we could talk for a full hour just on resumes, but we're going to keep rolling over to target lists. Okay? So we want to put together target lists. How on earth do we put together a target list? Well, the first place I would look is right here. Like this library or whatever library you've got, because they have online databases. They have online sources that you can use. They pay for them. They're free. Hoovers.com. I used to pay for Hoovers. It's horribly expensive to use that. Go to the library. It's free. Hello. So and it's just such a wealth of information. Essentially what this is you can do a search by industry, by geographic location, by whatever it is, by number of employees, by sales revenues, by you name it. Same thing with zoominfo.com. Same thing with Reference Check USA. They're going to have something similar to one of these. Find out what it is. Ask the librarian. They'll point you in the right direction. You can get tons of information about where to find the types of companies you want to go after just by using these sources. Yes.
Yeah, they do have Hoovers here, by the way, at this library available. So
That's fantastic. It's such a valuable resource, and you've got it offered to you for free, which is unbelievable. So definitely use those sources as much as you can. The best place, in my opinion, where you can put together a great target list is by using LinkedIn. If you're in LinkedIn, you want to use this. Maximize your use of this. If you're not in LinkedIn, I highly recommend you get in LinkedIn because it's such a great tool. I will contradict a lot of people who give their spiels on how to use LinkedIn. I haven't found many people in the job search community who do this, so if I'm contradicting anyone in this room, I apologize. But the purpose of LinkedIn, in my opinion, is to give you exposure to other companies and other people, and to give other companies and people exposure to you. The only way you're going to do that is by allowing more people to see you. A lot of people will advocate, I'm only going to connect with people who I know personally. Okay, well, you're limiting what you can do with LinkedIn. And this will make more sense as we go along here, but you want to try to expand your network as large as possible because it's going to give you more information that way. Why limit yourself? So here's how you use LinkedIn to put together a target list. First thing, do a search for people who do what you do. If you're an Oracle DBA, search for people with job titles, either past or present, of Oracle DBA. All right, you're going to get a list. Now, depending on how many people you're connected to, will dictate how large your list is. Okay, so the more people you're connected to, the bigger your list is going to be. Then, look at their profiles individually. Open up their profile, look at them, and look at every company that they worked at when they had your title. So you can search by people who live in your geographic area and your zip code, then look at the companies that they worked for as an Oracle DBA or as whatever it is you do. Now that's a list of companies who hire people who do what you do, obviously because they worked there, right? So then you're going to do a search for those companies in LinkedIn to see which people you're connected to who work there. right? Now, the ideal way you want to do this is look for the person you think you would be reporting to. If you're an Oracle DBA, you're probably going to report to the IT director, right? So I'm looking for IT directors and I'm looking for HR managers both, because I'm going to call both of them to try to get in there, all right? And another thing you can do with this is just do a quick Indeed search and do a simplyhired.com search. If you're not familiar with these are basically job board search aggregators. So rather than having to go to Dice or go to Monster or go to Career Builder, you just do a search in Indeed.com or do a search in simplyhired.com, and it's going to search all of them for you and bring all the results in one spot for you. And if you're thinking, well, I don't want to connect with that person because they're this is an accountant and I'm a technology person, so it doesn't make sense to connect. Well, he may have someone in his connections who is an IT manager who you can connect with. So the more you connect with is just going to help you and give yourself exposure. If people invite you to connect and you've got 3 or 4 people who want to connect with you, accept them one day after the next. Don't accept them all at the same time. Accept them one after the other in separate days. The reason you want to do that is because LinkedIn sends out this little update email that says, hey, Paul just connected to Rick. And everybody sees that Paul just connected with Rick. And if I connected with Rick and to Brian and to Al and to Tom and everybody at the same day, Paul connected to these people in that one email. But if I connect to Rick, everybody gets an email. Paul Cameron connected to Rick. And then the next day, Paul Cameron connected to Al. And then Paul Cameron, everybody knows who Paul Cameron is because my name keeps coming up. All right, that's just a tip to get more exposure. Yes.
As a pastor of 26 years, I've noticed that I've counseled people in my church, for years. Some people have a problem with the concept of who you know. And they kind of sort of downplay that, and so then they don't feel really good about doing what you're doing.
Okay.
And I try to say, no, it is who you know is important. Maybe you can address that.
I absolutely can. And I'll kind of run through just a quick version of it. I will say that the presentation I mentioned that I did for the WOW group, I get into a complete explanation of this as well as specifically how to tailor your interviews, specifically what to say when you make these phone calls, how to put together these lists. Also, drivestaff.com/getting interviews. It's there, so definitely check that out. But a quick run through of it. The big fear that I found, because I would always ask, I'd go to the LinkedIn presentation and they would say, oh, just connect to people you know. And the big fear is, okay, well, why? Why do you not want to connect with somebody who you don't know? Well, what happens if they want me to introduce them to somebody else and I can't recommend them? I don't know them. Okay, let's think this all the way through just for a minute. And Jeannie, I'm going to borrow you for a second. Let's say you wanted me to introduce you to Bob. Okay? Hey, can you forward this introduction over to Bob? And I'm connected directly to Bob. Okay, I pass this over and I say, Bob, I've got an introduction request for you. Here you go. Good luck with your connection. Now, what's your next move? Is it to say, oh my, I knew I shouldn't have connected with that Paul Cameron. He's forwarding these people over who want to meet me. Oh, it's awful. I cannot believe he wanted to introduce me to that person. No, but that's the fear, right? Just because I don't know her, that's so awful that I'm not recommending her. I'm just saying, hey, here's an introduction. And if it's a salesperson and you don't feel comfortable forwarding it, don't forward it. Just delete it and problem solved. So this is, it just provides you an opportunity to gain more exposure because now that I forwarded this over to Bob, now I can say, hey, Bob, hey, look at me. I'm a helpful person. Hey, do you need any help over there with your tech needs? Type of a thing. It just gives me more exposure to more people because they want to get forwarded. Realistically, you're not going to get very many of them. I get maybe 3 or 4 a week. I have 3,000 direct connections. 3 or 4 of them a week. If you've got a couple hundred, you're going to get a lot less than that. So some other free sources online that you can check out at home. You don't need the library to do it. Manta.com. Hoover's has a free version, Hoover's/free. It's nowhere near as comprehensive as the paid version like the library has here. ZoomInfo, if you just go to zoominfo.com, that's going to be free. Now, nowhere near as comprehensive as what you get for the paid version, but still very, very effective. Does anybody in here ever visit company, you have certain companies you really would love to get into, so you go and check their career page every day or every week. Several people in here. Okay, there's another website which I didn't put on here and I probably should have, called watchthatpage.com. Go to that site. Use this. It's free. And when you sign up for an account on watchthatpage.com, essentially what it does is you can go into that career page of whatever site it is, bookmark that page, and then whenever they make a change to that page, that site will send you an email to say, hey, they made a change to your career page, and here's the change that they made. Right? They just added a Java developer. And then as a recruiter, I will call up and say, hey, you know what, I've got this Java developer. Wow, your timing is amazing. I can't believe we just opened this file. Oh, well, hey, that's what I do. You know, I make several placements just from Watch That Page. It's a great, great source. I will tell you, it only works on what they call static pages, not dynamic pages. A static page is where they've got, like this, all the stuff is just listed on the page, right? It's just there, and if they change it, you're going to get an email. If you have to do a search on the page, like if they ask if you're looking at IBM or Experian or somebody, well, they'll say, are you looking for a job in, pick the state. Are you looking for a job in technology? And you've got the drop downs and you've got to do the search. That's what they call a dynamic page because it's changing and it's going to be different for each individual person. Watch That Page won't work for it, but Indeed.com, if you go to Indeed.com and look up that company, at the bottom of the page, it's going to say, have these emails sent to you in an alert. Put in your email address at the bottom. It's going to send you an alert. It's going to do the same thing. So you can get dynamic pages from Indeed and from Simply Hired, as well as Watch That Page. So highly recommend you let technology work for you so you don't have to work so hard. So again, 3 more hours we could talk about how to put together a target list. We're going to keep rolling. I wanted to leave the most amount of time for this because this really, the interviewing concept, this is the most important part of the whole job search process. What I'm finding is that job seekers will spend so much time making sure their resume is just perfect, right? And you have somebody else read it, and maybe you pay somebody to put that resume together, which is all a very, very good idea. You should absolutely do that. And then you put your target list together and you think about what you're going to say, and who you're going to call, and how you're going to do all this stuff, and making sure it's just absolutely perfect, right? Which again, very good idea. You should absolutely do that. But then you get the interview. Ah, yes, I got the interview. Sweet. And then we have this disconnect, different mindset going on. Well, I'm going to go in there. I'm going to, just tell them what I can do. I'm not going to prepare for this interview because, I don't want to misrepresent myself and make them think I can do stuff I can't do. I'm going to tell them what I can do, and if I'm qualified, then they'll hire me, and if I'm not, then they won't, and they probably shouldn't. So be it. Right? Does that sound kind of familiar? How you approach your interviews? See a lot of nods, yes. Okay, maybe that's true, but you know what? There are a lot of people who are fully qualified who are not getting jobs. Right? And likewise, there's a ton of people who are not qualified who are getting jobs. Mm-hmm. Right? How can that be? The bottom line is people hire people they like instead of the most qualified person, right? Now, there's a study done by Robert Half, one of the larger recruiting firms in the country, and they came back, all of their hiring managers, they surveyed all their hiring managers, 49% of their hiring managers made their hiring decisions based on a gut feeling about the candidate. Okay, that's not fair, right? Now we're getting into a high school popularity contest, right? But the good news is that the gut feeling you leave the employer with, that likability factor, is totally and completely controllable. You can affect that if you start using some specific selling techniques. Salespeople have turned this into a science on all the likability factors and how to touch on those little likability buttons. Right? There's schools that have been put together for salespeople on how to be likable and to effectively sell yourself in an interview. Because a salesperson, you're not going to sell anything unless they like you, right? So you've got to be likable in these things. And what I've done is just taken these advanced selling techniques and applied them to interviews. Okay, I'll give you an example. I have one technique I call the slow pitch down the middle. All right, and here's how this works. All right, when you're doing your research before the interview, all right, look for some good news happening about this company. Something that if you worked at this company, you would be really proud to know this about your organization. All right, let's say you see that over the last couple of years, the sales revenues have just skyrocketed, up 25, 35% over the last couple of years, right? So now, in your interview, you can casually mention to them, you know, when I was doing my research for our meeting today, which, by the way, says, hey, I was doing research for our meeting today because I really think this is important. I want this job. But, hey, when I was doing my research for a meeting today, I noticed that your sales revenues just went through the roof. I mean, did you bring in a new sales team, or what's happening to cause that? Okay, that is a slow softball pitch right down the middle. Even if he wasn't wanting to do this or he didn't set out to do this, he's going to feel compelled to want to pick up a bat and knock that thing out of the park, right? He's going to feel compelled to start sharing the good news about the company, to start selling you on the opportunity and the company. Okay, now why do you want somebody selling you on the company and the opportunity? Well, if you think about this for a minute, think about the psychological foundation of that scenario, of one person selling another person on anything. The person who's doing the selling is using their own personal persuasive skills, vulnerably laying them out there to achieve a specific result in whatever it is that they're selling. So in this case, the hiring manager is using his own personal persuasive skills to get you interested in the position. Right? So now at this point, you have a choice. You can either reject him and make him feel awful about his personal convictions, or you can start buying into what he's selling, becoming more and more interested in the position based on what he's telling you. That's going to make him feel great. That's going to give him that feeling of accomplishment he set out to achieve when he started selling you on the opportunity. That's going to affect the little conversation he has with himself after the interview. It's, boy, I don't know what it was about that person, but there's something about him. I liked him. That's the gut feeling, right? Now, this whole situation that you're in, them selling you on the opportunity and then you buying into what they're selling and then them positively affecting their gut feeling, this whole scenario that you're in happened because you came prepared with your slow pitch down the middle question from your research before the interview. That is an advanced selling technique. And that's what I really want to stress here today. My alarm's going off, so I know I've got about 10 more minutes to talk before I need to wrap this up. Negatives and positives. I'm sure you've all heard a million times already, at least, you never want to speak negatively about prior employers, right? Basic psychology, you speak negatively about somebody else, it reflects negatively on you, right? But what a lot of people don't take advantage of, especially in their interviews, is that when you go out of your way to speak positively of other people, it reflects positively on you. Even if it's just on a subconscious level here, again, your goal is to create that likable impression. It speaks to your character as a human being. It says, hey, I'm a good person, when you go out of your way to speak positively of other people. And your goal is to affect that likability factor, right? That's another tool you want to use during your interview. If I can ask, if anybody would be willing to venture this out, why did you leave your last position? Can anybody tell me why you left your last job? Yes.
Due to an economic downturn.
Okay.
My company, I used to have this memorized, I don't anymore.
Okay.
I was released along with 1,300 other people.
Okay, you know, and that's so important. When you are laid off with more than one person, always mention that. Because people who were fired, which again, we can talk about that if you'd like, but people who were fired will say, I was laid off. And I'll always ask how many people were laid off with you, and well, it was just me. And then you can kind of figure out what was going on, right? So you always want to see, use the numbers there. So, but what you said, there's nothing negative about that whatsoever. It was an economic downturn, and I was laid off with 1,300 other people. Nothing wrong with that at all. But what if you started that exact same sentence out with, you know what? It was a great company, and I really enjoyed the people that I worked with, but just unfortunately, due to the economic downturn, I was laid off with about 1,300 other people. Right now, her and I just said the exact same thing, but I also said, hey, I'm a good person. And that's going to give me the edge over her every time. You see what I mean? You want to go out of your way to speak positively about them. The other thing, if you don't really have anything positive to say about them, right, maybe it was a terrible company and you hated all the people you worked with, there's some reason that you worked there in the first place, that you took the job. A great location or great systems that they used or whatever it is. I'm sorry.
But if you speak negative about your previous company, why would an employer think that you're going to speak negative about the company?
Exactly right.
I mean, it's like that's going to be turning around.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. There's really no way that you can you can start a sentence out with, I wanted to leave that company because, and finish it
And
with a
have that come
positive.
good.
Yeah, exactly right. So what you can do is just take whatever that reason is and flip it around as to what you're running to, not what you're running from. So I wanted to leave because the management at that company was awful. They were so disorganized, and I can't believe they got out of bed in the morning, right, whatever. Instead, just flip it around. Why did you want to leave that company? Well, I wanted to find a company that had a really solid management structure, which I hear you have here, which is why I'm so excited to be here today. What I'm running to, not what I'm running from. It works on virtually everything you can think of why I wanted to leave. There's an opposite, right? So you want to flip that over, yes.
What if, and I've helped people with this, what if they really left because they were fired, because they needed a life change, they had golden handcuffs on, they had a poor attitude. Now, for rehabilitation and prayer and change, they really have a positive attitude, but they have a little bit of a negative reputation, maybe, who knows, in the industry. So they, now they feel now, what am I going to do?
Okay. You know what the best response I've ever heard to that, for anybody who knows Joy McGuire Dooley's, she runs a couple of clubs. Somebody stood up at her club who was fired, and when he said, when somebody asks me, why did you leave your last position? I tell them, I was let go, I was terminated, and to be just totally frank with you, if I were in their position, I would have done the same thing, because of what I was doing at the time. But I learned so many great lessons from that, and now I feel that I'm going to be such a better employee because of what I know now, because of that experience. But you've got to be in a mental position to do that. You can't be, they fired me because I was too efficient. Obviously, I was doing my job way too well, which you hear a lot. They don't want to blame it on the other one, but you've got to take some responsibility. There's two sides of that story. So that's what I would recommend there. The other thing I want to throw out there is making sure you show specific interest in the company. If somebody says, where do you see yourself 5 years from now? Does anybody have an answer you usually use to that you can share, where you see yourself 5 years from now?
Yeah. I want your job, and you should move up.
Okay. All right. I don't know, but I'd be careful about that one. I should have said ahead of time, there's two answers you really need to avoid. One of them is I want your job. The other one you really want to avoid, that's very common in the technology industry especially, is hopefully 5 years from now I'm going to be running my own consulting company. Or living in Arizona, or anything that says I certainly don't want to be working for you, right? Just not what you want to say. But the thing with this, most people will come back and they'll give some sort of hopefully I can advance my skills, I can work up into management eventually after I've been successful in this job, along those lines, which is nice, and there's no harm in saying something like that. But I'm sorry, yes.
For those of us who are a little older and still want to be working,
okay,
and they throw that question out about in 5 years, hopefully you might not be wanting to work or be working in 5 years, so I don't know how you...
Okay, the big thing with fighting those age discrimination types of questions, and I just want to take a couple of seconds on it because I want to wrap up, but you want to fight those age discrimination questions by answering their questions in a positive way without shining a light. Whatever you shine your light on, that's what they're going to focus on. If you say, I want to be working for 5 more years, that says, hey, look at my age. But if you were to say, here's my 5-year goals, that says I'm going to be here for 5 years and we're focusing on something positive, but it also says I'm going to be here 5 years without having to say that. So, but let me keep rolling with this of, hey, I want to work up into management, something along those lines. You have a huge opportunity here with this type of a question, and in several different areas, but most importantly with this type of a question, show specific interest in them, in that particular company. I would hopefully 5 years from now, I'm going to be working up into management within a company like XYZ company because it's in the financial industry, and I've always wanted to get into this industry. I love the financial industry. Your location downtown, I love working downtown, or you're out on the south side, there's not many good companies here, I'm close to my home, or whatever it is. Give them all these specific reasons why you're interested in them. That is going to make such a difference in your interview. And then I'm going to borrow you for a second if I can. Give you a really goofy analogy, if you don't mind. This is really off topic. I apologize, but I promise this is going to make the point, okay? Let's say hypothetically there are 2 guys who want to take you to a dance, all right? And you're available to go to this dance, all right? First one walks up and says, I hear you are just the best dancer in town, and you're such a nice person. It would be such a blast if you would go to this dance with me. Would you go? And then the second one walks up and says, you know what? There's a dance across town. I really don't care who I go with. I hear you didn't have a date. You want to go? Right? Who are you going to be drawn to? Obviously the first person, because they're so interested in you. Here's the thing. If you have two job seekers, two people going in for this job, both of them have the exact same experience, the same salary, the same skills, the same everything, but one of them really wants this job because of a whole laundry list of reasons. The other one just wants to work up into management someplace. They don't care where.
It's good.
That's going to tip the scale in your favor 10 out of 10 times. And if they don't say, where do you see yourself 5 years from now? Work this in somewhere else. Hey, did you find the place okay? Actually, you know what? I've really been looking forward to our meeting today, so I knew the route pretty well. Lots of different areas you can put this in. Give them that specific interest. That's the most important part of any interview you go on, even if it's not your dream job that you're going into. Show them that specific interest anyway. If you're not interested in the job, don't go on the interview, right? But if there is some interest in the job, show them that interest while you're there. You cannot turn down an interview you do not get. All right. Very, very important you show them that interest. And it's just the basic principle here of psychology. It's easier to like someone who you know already likes you. Right?
That's good.
So I'll keep rolling here. Just to summarize, positive attitudes are attractive. People are going to be attracted to you when you have a positive attitude. You need to attack each day with a plan. Tailor each resume to each job. Yes, it's time consuming, but it's worth it. This is the biggest commission check you're ever going to get. Research and target specific companies. Be proactive about your search rather than reactive. And sell yourself in your interview, because if you can't sell yourself, who will? Right? Now, I am going to, there's a couple of things on here on the interviewing piece you may have seen on the bottom of the page. I did another presentation on interviewing, but if you go to drivestaff.com/interview, you can hear one of my interviewing presentations. It's a full hour of just interviewing techniques. Just go and listen. You don't have to download anything. Check this out. It's going to help your job search. So one thing I do want to do, a couple of years ago, I put together an audio program. This is a 4.5-hour course on how to interview. Everything you ever want to know, from how to prepare for the interview, to how to follow up after the interview, what to say during the interview, how to fight the age discrimination questions, how to pick out illegal questions, everything. I'm going to raffle one of these off and pass it around. If you do not feel this would be valuable to you, please don't put your number in, because someone else could really use this. All right? The reason that I do this, yes, sir.
I bought that from you about a year ago.
Really?
Believe me, people, it's good.
Wow, thank you. That's good. Good, I appreciate that. But the reason I do this, I did this, the first time I did it actually was a south suburb in Orland Hills. So hopefully we'll have the same luck here. But the guy who won it that night had never been to a job club in his entire life. Senior marketing manager, he's mid-six figures type of a guy. He had been out of work for 8 months. He won the program, came back to the very next month's meeting and said, I've got 2 offers, and it's because of this program. I want to raffle this off for somebody else. The guy who won it that night came back to the next meeting, and he had a job, and he said it was because of the things in this technique, the techniques he learned in this. And hopefully we can get one of those type of stories going. I will tell you, there is a catch if you win this. Just so you know, the catch is you have to send me an email and tell me about the experience. If this helped you get a job, tell me. If it didn't help you, that's fine too. Just tell me that too. But you got to send me a quick email and let me know, hey, this is what happened, so I can keep spreading the good word. This is here to help you, in all honesty, because I do work on 100% commission. I don't have the opportunity to coach people on an individual basis on how to interview, just because I don't make the sale by doing that. So this is why I created this, so I can help people without having to be on formal. That probably came across kind of cold, so.
It's honest, though.
So, okay.
It's honest. Honest is good.
Right. And if you did, obviously you didn't win one, I do have 5 of them with me at a discount, that kind of thing. It's only $30. It will help you. Thank you, everybody, for all your time. Yes.
Thanks. Thank you very much.